Hello there guys, LaserBeast here today with a guide all about the War Within pre-patch, which is going to go live on July the 23rd, so it's not long now. All the systems changes are coming on that date, and then the actual pre-patch event goes live the week after on July the 30th, which is the Radiant Echoes event. So I'm going to tell you all about the changes coming. So let's dive in. Now the War Within actually launches on August the 26th itself, but those with early access can play it on August the 22nd, so we basically got the pre-patch for a month. So seeing as the system stuff is changing first, let's talk about all that's coming, and then we'll look at the Radiant Echoes event and the rewards that you can get from doing that. So the first thing you'll notice is of course the new login screen and the different music, so you can enjoy that when you log in for the first time on pre-patch, and then you'll see that your warband is now basically active. So when you log in, the character screen is a little bit different. You've got your 4 slots there at the top, you've got a little cozy scenario, little scene that your characters are currently in, and you can drag different characters up and down into this top 4 warbands. They're basically your 4 favourite characters. You can put them in there and they can live there together happily ever after. There's actually quite a lot to the warband system. This is just the first thing that you'll notice immediately. Now what's really nice about this as well is if you do have characters on different realms, you no longer need to click through the different realms to go and find those characters, because the top 4 favourites are always going to be here to just log into. You can see a little tooltip as well as you hover over them. It'll say what realm the character is actually on, what spec it's in, how much gold it has, and also what professions it has, which is pretty handy information to have straight on the screen there, just in case you forgot. So a great deal of things are becoming, well, account bound, or basically warband bound, if you will, in the pre-patch. So when you first log in, the system will start doing its thing and getting your data sort of collated. Blizzard have said for the warband systems to work, you don't need to log into every single character to get things like transmog shared between characters. You just need to log into the one character and the system will do its thing. So one of the big changes going forward with the warbands is that reputation is now, well, renown if you will, is now going to be account bound. So all the War Within factions that you gain renown with, you will not need to refarm that on any of your alts, which is brilliant. So any rep gains that you're going to get with any characters on your account are all going to contribute to that overall rep total. Blizzard have also said that this is going to be something they work on historically too, so over time you should find that some of the previous reputations that you've earned rep with will also become shared on your warband. So if you have changed characters over the years and got some reputations exalted on different characters, they should all come together eventually in the end as the system progresses. But of course currently we don't have any idea as to when that will be, it just will be some point in the future. Another brilliant part of this feature of the warbands is that gear will now become warband bound rather than soul bound. That is the vast majority of gear that you will find on your War Within adventures. So if you get, for example, some mail gear dropping when you're playing a leather character, that's fine. If you've got a hunter, for example, or a shaman, you can just either send that mail over to that character or put that in your warband bank, which is another feature that I need to talk about, and the alt can just go and get that piece of gear and use it. So things like this are going to make it so much easier to manage your alts, and it really is going to be the most alt-friendly expansion we've ever had in World of Warcraft. As for the Warband Bank, it's a fairly simple scenario. All you do is when you log into the pre-patch, you will get a quest that pops up, and it's called Warbanding Together, and this asks you to go to Tanneris, to Gadgetzan specifically, and do a little quest that introduces the Warband Bank to you. So this will kind of show you how it works and give you access to the system. It only takes about sort of 5 to 10 minutes to complete. And once you have the Warband Bank unlocked, it pretty much works exactly the same as a personal guild bank. So you can buy tabs for it, you can organise those as you like, and anything that you put into those tabs will be able to be accessed by any of your characters on your account. The tabs are pretty expensive though. The first one is a couple of thousand gold if I remember correctly, then it goes to 25k and quickly ramps up after that, with the final tab being worth 2.5 million gold. So if you are a bit of a hoarder, or if you have a lot of alts, or maybe you just do professions quite a lot and need a lot of things storing, you're probably going to have to sink quite some gold into this to make the most out of the system. Now speaking of items, we can tie currencies in with this. Currencies are now also, well, the majority of them are warband transferable, which means just basically on the UI, you can choose certain currencies to trade to your other characters. It's so much easier now, you know, rather than going to an actual NPC and buying a crate of supplies, for example, which comes with a cost, and then mailing that to your alt, which was a bit of a clunky system, let's be honest. You can now do this just straight through the UI, which is a very nice quality of life change indeed. Okay, so let's talk about leveling. So leveling from 1 to 70 has been massively reduced in terms of XP wise. The total XP you need to get from 1 to 70 has basically been reduced by 45%, so a massive chunk cleaved off that grind there. So that's going to feel great from the get-go, and also to bring things into more modern times, the actual expansion that you'll automatically start off on a new character is going to be Dragonflight. So it just makes sense, you know, it gets you into a more recent story compared to going into Battle for Azeroth that you was doing as standard, which obviously kind of is pretty outdated. implemented by now, it doesn't really make sense to put a new player into that scene. So the Dragon Isles is where new players will begin, which also makes sense because of Skyriding. So Dragon Riding is now becoming Skyriding, so it's going to apply to hundreds of mounts, roughly 464 mounts that are going to be able to Dragon Ride. So a lot of the ones in your journal currently will be upgraded to this new way of flying, well, the modern way of flying. All characters will be able to skyride at level 10, so you can make the most of this when you're leveling a new character as well, whilst enjoying that big old XP reduction. And as for the mounts, there is a complete list on Wowhead of all the different mounts that can now skyride in the pre-patch, so have a look at that if you wish to do so. Otherwise, just wait for the pre-patch to come around and then have a look in your mount journal, and you'll see that there's a skywriting tag on the mounts that can skyride, so it's really easy to see which ones can and which ones can't. Now then, I know that there are people that do not like dragon riding or skywriting, so you do have the option to switch your flight style. Now this is from your mount journal as well. It's a simple toggle button. You can just basically choose to go to skywriting or steady flying. Now, as for the glyphs for the dragon riding spells, well, they've obviously now changed over to skywriting glyphs, if you will, and it's apparently been stated that you don't actually have to go and get these as you level up. You'll basically gain skywriting proficiency points that you can then spend into the skywriting talent tree in the UI, so dead simple. You will absolutely see though, as you start leveling up in the War Within, that there are skywriting glyphs dotted around the map for you to collect. Now, these don't actually apparently tie in with this skywriting tree, they're just simply there to collect for achievements, and if you do collect them all, there is a mount you can earn from doing that, as well as some achievement points along the way, of course. Now, steady flying in the War Within zones isn't apparently available from expansion launch, but once you've completed the campaign for the War Within, the initial campaign quests, you will then unlock the ability to steady fly in the Isle of Dawn as well, so all the War Within zones. I'm not quite sure why it's been made this way, because there would be no harm in putting the steady flying option in from the get-go, but there you go, that's just the way it is, unfortunately. The War Within zones are absolutely massive though, as I would say. They're probably equivalent to, if not slightly bigger than the Dragon Isle zones, so you probably are going to want to skyride around as you go and do things in the open world. Alright then, another big thing coming in the pre-patch are all the class changes, so the talent readjustments and the spec changes and new talents and removed talents and all things to do with how your spec actually plays and functions. So, you won't actually have access to your hero talents in the pre-patch because they start to be unlocked at level 71, so you will need to wait for launch and get to level 71 before you can start to make use of those. Now usually specs can feel a bit weird in a pre-patch due to us lacking certain things like capstone talents as we're not max level, or legendaries for example, but here we still have all of our talents, albeit reworked, some specs more than others, so you shouldn't feel too clunky or strange in the pre-patch and can enjoy your new talents pretty simply. Some classes did get some pretty substantial reworks. I would highly recommend checking out websites such as Wowhead and Icy Veins, as well as your class discords and any of your favourite content creators that do stuff on your spec or class that you play, purely so that you can stay updated with what's changed and how things are currently working out, and also so you can see their thoughts on the new hero talents and how that affects your current class. Now, there are definitely some winners out there when it comes to the hero talents. Some specs are very cool, and the abilities really shine and add some brilliant flavour to the spec, such as Unholy Death Knights, you know, with the Riders of the Apocalypse options, or Warlocks with the Diabolist option 2, whereas some specs, hero talents are simply just boosting most of the existing things that are present in the specs already, for example, Guardian Druids, which is sort of a bit unexciting. But of course, that is just purely my opinion. Now, Wowhead do have the hero talents on the website that you can go and play with in the calculator. However, if you do have access to the beta, I would suggest just getting on there yourself and trying things out. You can't beat doing that. Okay, those are the biggies when it comes to systems changes. Now let's talk about the Radiant Echoes event. Now, this will go live on the 30th of July. So we've got about a week to get used to the new changes before the event begins. So to begin this event, you will get a quest from Khadgar that will pop up when you log in when the event is live, called Memories of Adventures Past. Now this is from Khadgar. Basically, you will go to Dalaran, to the central tower in the middle there, and it will ask you to complete a Radiant Echo event. So these happen in 3 set places. You've got Dustwallow Marsh, Searing Gorge, and Dragonblight. Now, there are, of course, 3 portals to these zones. You will notice that wherever the Radiant Echo currently is, the zone will have an extra kind of swirly effect on it to indicate this is where the event is currently happening, so dead easy to find. And you can also see them indicated on the world map with a timer for how long the event currently has left at that current location. So on a rotation, every 30 minutes, a Radiant Echo will spawn at one of those specific zones. Initially, there'll be a big mob called a Congealed Memories, and as you DPS that down, a load more mobs are going to come out of it, which are basically past memories of Azeroth. So you can just basically kill all these down with a few people. Realistically, there's going to be big groups going around doing this, so just basically join the Zerg train and smash through this mob. That's phase 1 of the event. Once the coalesced memory is defeated, then phase 2 starts. So 6 events are going to spawn throughout the zone. Again, you can see those marked on the map with the star icon as standard. Now these reflect past memories seen throughout your adventures in Azeroth, so there will be different tasks to complete depending on what memory is currently being shown. And it is made very clear as to what you need to do when you approach each zone via the objectives tracker. Once all the Radiant Echoes have been defeated, all 6 of them are done, then a final boss will spawn. Now that is a set boss depending on which location you're in. In Dustwallow Marsh, Onyxia is going to spawn. In the Searing Gorge it will be Ragnaros, and the Lich King was going to spawn in Dragonblight. Once the final boss is completed, that will conclude the Radiant Echo event, so it really is as simple as that. Now as you're killing the mobs in the zone and of course defeating the final boss, you will be collecting a new currency. That is called Residual Echoes. Now, it seemed on the beta when I was testing this that you got around 1,500 Residual Echoes per event, also getting roughly 500 from the last boss as well, so you do get some more trickling in from other mobs and completing objectives during the events as well. We can also spend this currency on various rewards, so the first most obvious one, as is always the case in a pre-patch event, is catch-up gear. So the main vendor is at Dalaran near where you'll find the portals to the events, and he is called Remembrancer Amul. That is a mouthful, by the way. Now the catch-up gear you can get is at eye level 480 when you purchase it. There's pieces available for every single slot, including trinkets and weapons, so you can gear yourself up completely with this if you need this gear, and it is upgradable too using flight stones. Remember now that because of the Warbands feature, you can now just play this simply on your main if you want to, and then either transfer the currency via your Warband and buy the gear on your alt, or buy the armor, which will become Warbound until equipped, and you can then either mail the gear or put it in your Warband bank and go and collect that on your alts if you need to. There are other vendors for this, by the way, so the other vendors you can find them at each of the Radiant Echo zones, and it's the people that give you the daily for the event. Now as for other rewards, there are some battle pets available. Now these are basically like mini versions of Stitches from Duskwood, a little version of Hogger from Elwyn Forest, and then an Onyxian Whelpling as well. Now these have the same sort of weird yellow and gold colour glow as the mobs do in the Radiant Echoes events themselves. Now there's also the mount, which is the main thing. There's 2 mounts. You've got the Remembered Golden Griffin and the Remembered Wind Rider. Again with that kind of strange blue-yellow tint that sort of moves around as the mount moves itself. Now even if you don't like these, it is 2 more mounts for the collection, isn't it? There's 2 bags, a 32 slot bag and a 30 slot reagent bag that you can get your hands on if you need those. And there's also an heirloom ring, the Band of Radiant Echoes. Now what you need to do here is buy the Lifeless Stone ring from the same vendor, then infuse the ring with the essences of the Eastern Kingdoms, Kalimdor and Northrend. So during the Radiant Echoes events you'll get a currency, seemingly from the mobs and the end boss, called Memories of the Eastern Kingdoms, for example. Let's do that one first. So you'll get these Memories of the Eastern Kingdoms. Once you get 20 of those memories, you can then combine them into the essence of the Eastern Kingdoms, which you can then infuse into the ring. Repeat that for Kalimdor and Northrend, so you've got your 3 essences, and then your ring becomes the heirloom. Now that is pretty much it for the Radiant Echoes event. Fairly simple overall, nice and straightforward. So one thing to bear in mind as well, of course, is that the Mr. Pandari remix characters on your account, if you have any, will be converted into normal characters on your account basically, and they'll be given some gear which will set them up for their adventures in the War Within. We don't currently know what item level gear that is going to be, but Blizzard did say that they will be ready to jump straight into the War Within as soon as that goes live. And a final little thing to mention is that cross-realm guilds are going to be available in the pre-patch too, so if you do want to invite characters from other realms into your guild, you can feel free to do so as well. Nice little change. Do keep an eye out for the full patch notes coming out for the pre-patch from Blizzard themselves when they are all finalised, because there will be some other minor things I haven't mentioned in this video, such as some UI changes and things like that. But with that said though, that is this video completed, so I hope you did find it useful, guys. I do hope you enjoy the pre-patch and that you're excited for the War Within to go live. If you did enjoy the video, please do leave it a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more guides and content all about World of Warcraft from me. But for now, I've been LaserBeast. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate your time. Have a good day and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.